homage to Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to Manjushri, homage to all the lineage masters. The supreme, profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate all sentient beings, please give rise to the Supreme Bodhicitta. Now, let us continue our study on the Bodhicharyavatara. At this point in the Bodhicharyavatara, we are learning about not being attached to our physical body. Because if we are attached to our physical body, our practice will not be successful. Throughout history, all the great masters and accomplished beings have let go of attachment to their bodies, all their relatives and friends, and gone to solitary places to practice the authentic Dharma. By relying on a mind of contentment and few desires, they attain realization in pure and sacred places. But in bustling cities, it is very difficult to achieve realization. As stated in the Sutra of Questions of Purna, one should always rely on solitude and never become attached to big cities. This teaching is also quoted in the Great Chariot, the commentary on finding rest in the nature of mind. So, as later practitioners, we should always maintain the attitude of spending all year practicing the Dharma in pure places, and relying on an authentic spiritual teacher. Of course, if circumstances allow, it is ideal to be physically close to one's teacher. However, if this is not possible, following the teacher's instructions wholeheartedly is itself a true form of reliance. Some people think that they do not have the conditions to rely on a teacher. They believe that relying on a teacher means following the teacher every day, watching them, and constantly staying by the teacher's side, while they often neglect and never diligently practice the precious instructions given by the teacher. These people's thinking is not truly relying on a teacher. I don't think it is like this. So, what does it really mean to rely on a teacher? It means putting the teacher's instructions, which are the teachings of the Buddha, into diligent practice with sincerity and effort. This is the ultimate meaning of relying on a teacher. If the teacher has not taught you the Dharma and you do not follow the teacher's instructions, even if you are always by the teacher's side, watching their every move and giving them no personal space, you are not truly relying on your teacher. There are always those who say, "Oh, I don't have the conditions to rely on a teacher. How ashamed and miserable I am." In reality, with the conveniences of modern technology, many people do have the conditions to rely on a teacher. If you do not put the teachings into practice and simply protect the teacher all day long, this is not truly relying on a teacher. Therefore, I urge everyone to make a firm commitment to strive to practice the Mahayana path sincerely and diligently in this lifetime. I have repeatedly emphasized the importance of making this vow, because I sincerely hope that by making this vow, our lives will undergo a profound transformation. Otherwise, if we continue to drift through life aimlessly as before, and keep living the same way from now on, listening to the Dharma will lack true meaning. So, through this study, we should develop genuine confidence and faith in the Dharma. In fact, the reason I share the Dharma with you tirelessly, day after day, is so that you may gain some benefit through these teachings. The minds of ordinary people change very quickly. Sometimes, when I see that some of you are not studying earnestly, I feel quite disappointed, as if my teaching lacks much meaning. But sometimes when I hear someone say they are practicing and studying well, I feel a sense of comfort and encouragement. Today, a Dharma friend from Mount Puto called me and said that recently, through studying this treatise, he has experienced some changes. He said that for the rest of his life he would study diligently. In the past, he had been living in confusion, but now he has finally found guidance for practice and hope for liberation. He was in tears as he spoke, and then hung up, unable to continue. Reflecting on this, I realized that through our teaching, if even 1 or 2 people benefit, then it's worthwhile. When I began to give the teaching, I thought if only 20 people were listening, I would already feel very satisfied. If even a very small number of people can gain a thorough understanding of the Mahayana Dharma and change their life courses, it is worthwhile. As it is described in the letter to a friend, some people enter darkness from dark, while some from light to dark. Now, through studying the Mahayana, our path can shift from dark to light, and from light to even greater light. This is one of the main purposes of our study. So I hope that everyone here will have a heartfelt determination and a firm vow. This is very important. You should try to avoid the thought that 1 or 2 days of studying is enough, nor should you become weary and decide not to study anymore after 3 or 4 years. We should continue our study until we attain enlightenment. If we cannot make such a great vow, then at least in this lifetime, we should resolve not to stop listening to and practicing the Dharma. Recently, I heard a teaching from a great master in Japan who is believed to be a manifestation of Avalokiteshvara. In that teaching, he said, I began studying the Dharma in my teens, and I have never stopped hearing, contemplation, and meditation every day. Now, in my 70s, I still continue this practice. When I heard this, I was truly amazed. I often have this feeling, and I often tell many Dharma friends, I have been studying and reflecting the Dharma for over 20 years. Now it's time to practice. But when I think about it, 20-some years of study and contemplation is really nothing remarkable. This master began studying in his teens and has now studied for over 60 years. In terms of wisdom, character, or realization, people like us cannot match even a fraction of his qualities. Yet he maintains such a strong interest for the Dharma and placed great importance on hearing, contemplation, and practice. But people like us seem to feel content with just a little bit of knowledge. This is not reasonable. So when some people say studying for 2 or 4 years is enough and they want to engage in actual practice, when I hear this, I find this quite surprising. 4 years is not even enough to finish elementary school in worldly education. It takes 5 or 6 years to finish elementary school. So after just a few years of study, we become complacent and rush into somewhere else to practice blindly. Maybe you think you are practicing, but it might just be blind practice. So it's important to continually rely on a teacher and follow their guidance. If circumstances don't allow you to physically rely on a teacher, then you should follow the instructions of the teacher you have the most faith in. Make it a daily habit to listen to teachings and study, and continue practicing Dharma until the end of your life. This is indispensable. Before the actual teaching, I want to remind you, do not give up on hearing and contemplating the Dharma. If you give up easily, your practice will not be successful. If you think you have reached a certain level of realization, this could be the work of Mara, not a genuine realization. Sometimes people do feel that they no longer need to study at all. I recall an American lay practitioner who once visited our academy. On the way, he kept telling others, oh, I have already realized I don't need to care about anything anymore. But as soon as he arrived at a restaurant, he began ordering live fish to be cooked as his dish, which was quite shocking. So if someone believes they are realized and no longer need to study, this is a dangerous sign. If they think, I no longer need to hear or contemplate the Dharma, this may indicate they have deviated from the path. So I hope you will never feel satisfied when it comes to hearing the Dharma. What we should feel content with and let go of are the objects that trigger desire, anger, and ignorance. Next, let us continue with the teaching. The verse says, then chop apart the bones as well. Look in as far as to the marrow and analyze it for yourself. What essence does it have? Earlier, we analyzed the body from the outer skin all the way to the muscles and internal organs and found nothing truly precious. Some people may think that perhaps in the bones or in the deeper layers there is something truly worthy of attachment, but this is another delusion, a very unreasonable idea. Why do we say this? Because, as we discussed in the past couple of days, the human body can be analyzed and dissected again and again. During this process of analysis, we start by examining the entire outer framework of the body. Eventually, we reach the inner skeleton. But bones do not contain anything truly worth being attached to. If we dissect the entire skeleton, we find that bones are just made up of bone tissue, membranes, and bone marrow. Other than that, there is nothing else. Sometimes we can see this when we go to a charnel ground. There, watching the sky burial master dissecting the corpse to the bones can help us develop a clear understanding of our own body. Sometimes by contemplating a piece of white bone that has lain for decades, we can realize that it once belonged to someone and how its owner once clung to it, but now there is no way to grasp anymore. Our own bodies will be no different from these bones in a few years. By visualizing our own skeleton alongside the white bones in the charnel ground, we will clearly understand that the body we are so attached to are nothing special at all. If we examine the entire skeleton in detail, from the skull to the neck bones, spine, and legs, in the end, we found that among all these bones, there is no true essence worth taking, especially human bones. They are basically useless. The bones of a yak or other animals may have some value. For example, after a person dies, the flesh cannot be eaten, the skin cannot be sold or used for anything, and the hair is also useless. So the human body is really the least valuable. But with a yak, it's different. If a yak dies in the autumn, it is usually fat and can be sold for thousands of yuan. Even in the spring, when the yak is thin, its bones or hide can still be worth something. But when a person dies, nothing is of value. No one has ever said, oh, a family member has died, they are going to get rich now. There is no such saying. We are often extremely attached to our bodies, constantly thinking, this is my body, I should take care of it. Even if it's a small burn or a slight bump, we cannot bear it. If someone criticizes our body or our nose, we may become furious. In fact, the nose is a small part of the whole body. If someone says your nose doesn't look good, there's no reason to be angry. But we may become extremely upset thinking, how can you say my nose is not good? For a person with a large body, the nose is a tiny part. If others only criticize the nose, there is still so much more to the body, there is no need to get angry. But because we are so attached to it, as if our nose has been cut off, what is the reason for this? It is because since beginningless time, we have had this attachment to the body, which is a major obstacle to our practice. However, by constantly practicing meditation on white bones and on the impurity of the human body, we can gradually make progress on the path. In Buddhist practice, meditation on the impurity of the human body does exist. Even now, practitioners in Thailand, Myanmar, and other countries go into forests to practice meditation on white bones. When I visited Thailand, I saw several monasteries in Thailand dedicated to meditating on white bones. Some corpses are kept there for practitioners to observe the decomposition of the whole body and the color of the white bones. Practitioners will first look at these white bones, then go into the mountains to continue practicing for a few days or even months. After that, they return to observe the white bones again. In this way, their attachment to the body gradually decreases, and they have a greater chance of succeeding in practice and even to attain realization. There is a treatise called The Path of Purification. In this treatise, there is a story about a practitioner who meditated on white bones all day long. He could visualize people's entire bodies as white bones, but had not yet attained true realization. One day, a beautiful woman had a quarrel with her husband. After the argument, she decided to return to her parents' home on the way to make her husband angry and to attract the attention of other men. She dressed herself up beautifully like a goddess. On her way home, she encountered the practitioner meditating on white bones. This woman thought she was unlucky to encounter the practitioner who was meditating on white bones. When she saw the practitioner, he was dignified, his features were upright, and his demeanor was very noble. He kept his eyes straight ahead and behaved very properly. Seeing this, she developed a strong desire for him. She stared at him, wanting to seduce him. At that moment, the practitioner also saw her. He noticed that she was staring at him, but in his meditative state, what appeared to him was a terrifying, fanged skeleton rushing toward him. At that moment, because he was abiding in his meditative state, far from being tempted by the woman, he immediately attained the state of arhathood. After that, all the woman's hopes for being with him were like bubbles, completely gone. This shows that when encountering the most difficult or challenging situations or very unfavorable circumstances, if some practitioners can remain in their meditative state, realization can happen. In many Indian traditional practices, there is the tradition of meditating on white bones. In ancient times, in the Han regions of China and the Tibetan regions, there were also monasteries and some pure retreat places where this practice of meditating on white bones was taught. Since ancient times, the great masters of all lineages have placed great importance on this practice, as it helps to reduce one's intense desire and attachment. Generally speaking, one can sometimes tell a person's level of practice from the way they treat their bodies and how they decorate and adorn themselves. Some people are extremely attached to their bodies. In this case, whether monastic or lay, they are unlikely to be deeply committed to practice. I recall once giving the transmission of the Treasury of Precious Qualities in a city. It says in the Treasury of Precious Qualities that excessively adorning the body is a very shameful and foolish act. At that time, there were several lay people listening, both men and women, who were very fond of dressing up and adorning themselves. So I emphasized this point. Although I was intended to give the transmission and shouldn't have said anything else, I still deliberately translated that sentence for them. The whole transmission was in Tibetan, but I specifically translated that line from the 6 instructions of Longchenpa's Treasury of Precious Qualities. After I said it, maybe it was just my imagination, it seemed that they changed their behavior. They no longer appeared so concerned with fashion. Next, let us look at the following verse. If, after searching so thoroughly, you still cannot find any essence, why do you remain so attached to this impure body? In the previous verses, we have had careful and repeated examination of the body. After examination, we find that there is nothing truly precious or pure within our body. We can find nothing meaningful either in the skin, in the flesh, or in the bones, nor if we look for it in the bone marrow, nor can we find it in the skull or in the brain. In the end, the whole body is just like a bag filled with impure substances from top to bottom. Other than that, there is nothing else at all. But people in the world do not realize this at all. When we say this, some people think it sounds very unreasonable. Just look at the world and history. So many people are constantly praising, admiring, decorating, and adorning the body. Why do practitioners speak this way? they cannot accept. However, as Nagarjuna states in the Precious Garland, when it comes to this impure body, some people keep praising and adorning it, but this is an act of great ignorance and shame. But the way how worldly people view the body is quite different from the way practitioners view it. Which view reveals the truth of the body? It's the practitioner's view. But worldly people may not necessarily understand this. First, we should carefully examine the body inside and out again and again. After repeated examination, if we find even a little pure or meaningful part, then it would be reasonable to praise our own body or others' bodies. It is not that we criticize our bodies for no reason, but if we look at the body and examine it inside and out, we will not find anything truly meaningful or precious in our own body or in someone else's. As practitioners, it is best not to be overly attached to our bodies, which is unnecessary, and it is also not reasonable to be attached to it. If we were to treat the unclean food as if it were gold, is that reasonable? We all know how meaningless that would be. If we treat the filth in a toilet as if it were gold, does it have any real value? I think everyone knows the answer. So in some of Nagarjuna's teachings, he said, no matter how beautiful a woman's body is, it is still like a pile of filth. No matter how nice or fresh it looks, it has no real value. We need to understand the true nature of our own physical body in this way. Once we understand its nature, we will not waste all our energy and wealth on it. Sogyal Rinpoche once said something I think is very true. Some people put all their energy and wealth into decorating their bodies. This is a foolish act, just like a traveler spending all their money to decorate a hotel room where they will only stay for one night and leave the next day. If you decorate the hotel with everything you have, is that reasonable? No, you should take your belongings with you. Of course, if you are blessed with material wealth, it is fine to spend some money to decorate the body a little. This is a common tradition in the world. Nowadays, people think they should wear gold and silver if they have some. And they also apply all kinds of cosmetics that they can afford to their bodies. Of course, most people mainly focus on putting on makeup on their faces. They apply layers of creams and so forth to their faces. Other than that, in a few places like India, people also decorate their toes. But this is not common in China, especially in Tibetan regions where it is so cold and icy. No one can see any decorations on the feet. Now, in many places, it is already starting to freeze. Anyway, I think we should also reflect on whether it's worthwhile to decorate the body. In this way, we can overcome our attachment and clinging to the body. If we can truly understand the structure of the skeleton and the condition of the flesh as we analyzed earlier, then we will not be attached to our own body nor to others' bodies. I remember there is a story recorded in the Dhammapada about this. There was a queen who was extremely attached to her own body. She usually did not want to go to the monastery. At that time, the Buddha was teaching the Dharma in the monastery. If she went, she would hear the Buddha say how our bodies are impure in nature. She could not accept it, so she often did not want to go to the monastery. But the king wanted her to take refuge in the Buddha and practice the Dharma. He tried every possible way to get her to go to the monastery, but she still refused to go. One time the king issued an order. He asked all the poets in the country to write poems to praise the tranquility, virtues, and all the qualities of the monastery. The queen became interested in how these poets praised the various virtues of the monastery. She thought, if many poets are praising the monastery today, I should go and have a look. So she went that day. When the king and queen arrived at the shrine hall, Buddha Shakyamuni observed her capacity and saw that she had no interest in the Dharma. Unlike ordinary people, the Buddha knew how to liberate sentient beings according to their capacities. So the Buddha transformed into another extremely beautiful woman who stood behind the queen, fanning the queen. At that moment, the queen looked at her and saw how beautiful she was, feeling that she could not match her beauty. The queen thought, there really are such beautiful women in the world. She is truly very beautiful. She kept staring at her. But since this was a magical display by the Buddha, the beautiful woman quickly began to age and turned into an old woman, and finally she died. After her death, her flesh gradually decomposed, with only the skeleton remaining. The rotten flesh was covered with flies and smelled terrible. The whole shrine hall was filled with a terrible stench. At that moment, the queen realized that beauty is fleeting and has no real value. As she was reflecting on this, the Buddha saw that her mind was now ripe. Then the Buddha told her, people in the world are extremely attached to their appearance and beauty. Those who are so attached to beauty are being foolish. All these appearances and beauties are nothing meaningful. Then the Buddha taught teachings tailored to her capacity. As she listened to the Dharma, she attained the state of stream enterer. By the end of the Buddha's teaching, she had attained arhathood. So, when we contemplate these related teachings, we can easily understand the nature of the body, both ourselves and others. With this understanding, even very strong afflictions in our own mind stream can be overcome. It is very difficult for any kind of practitioners to be completely free of afflictions in their mind streams. When afflictions arise, if we force ourselves by thinking, you must rely on mindfulness and awareness. You must not break precepts. You must not always be thinking about your own body or be attached to others' bodies. It may not work. Even if it worked, the effect is not very strong. But if we truly understand the nature of our own and others' bodies, even if we may still have greed, which does happen in essence, it will be like a person without life, unable to function. So it will be fundamentally weakened. Why do we develop a greed for objects? It is because we see them as something good. According to the commentary on valid cognition, our attachment arises because we perceive qualities in the object. Conversely, if we see faults, we may develop anger toward it. If you used to think that someone was especially attractive and you developed attachment for their bodies, or if you look in the mirror and dress up every day thinking, I really do look good. If I dress up even more, even the heavenly goddess Sarasvati could not compare to me. She might even feel embarrassed. In the end, you may end up spending all your time, energy, and wealth on your own impure body, taking care of it with all that you have. Of course, if it does not affect your practice, how you adorn yourself is your own choice. After all, it is your own wealth and your own time, but such attachment harms your practice directly or indirectly. So, sometimes I reflect that except for some monastics, many young lay people have little strength in their Dharma practice. Their minds are already burdened by afflictions, and on top of that, they are attached to their bodies, along with many other inner and outer obstacles. Those who are somewhat older, say over 30 or 40, tend to be more stable in their practice. Because they know the true nature of the body, they tend to have less attachment to others or to themselves. So, as people reach a certain age, they become mature. Their attachment to the physical body gradually decreases. At this time, it feels they are ripe for the Dharma teaching. In summary, as we study the Dharma, we should try to reduce our attachment to both our own and others' bodies. If you can do this, it shows that you are making progress in your practice. But if you remain obsessed with your body and constantly care for it, then it's hard to say when you will have the opportunity to attain realization. All right, let's move on to the next verse. Its filth is not fit for you to eat, nor is its blood fit to drink either. Its entrails are unfit to suck. What does the body do for you? Instead, it's logical it be kept as food for jackals and for vultures. This verse says that even though we have examined this over and over again, some people still think the body is worth being attached to because they can use the body to do many things, and the body can be a source of food. And this is a big mistaken notion. Why is it a big mistake? If you investigate it, you will see that you cannot enjoy your own body at all, whether it is the lean meat or the fat meat, inside or out. There is not a single part that is fit for consumption. In India, eating human flesh is strictly forbidden. Anyone who did so would be ridiculed and condemned. Except in times of famine, we never hear of people eating human flesh. No one ever says, someone's died, let's have a feast. So no matter how good the body may seem, even if someone is very fat and seems in theory edible after death, no one would ever consider eating them. So the body is not for eating. And as for the blood and pus in the body, can these be drunk? It should be very clear that these cannot be drunk, because all the fluids in the body, no matter what kind, are foul and putrid. No one would ever want to drink their own bodily fluids. And as for the internal organs, the intestines, stomach, liver, and so on, can these be enjoyed? They cannot be enjoyed as food either. Other than that, is there any part of the body that has any value or is worth enjoying? Definitely not. If it's a yak or some other animals, their meat can be eaten and almost their whole body can be used. But for the human body, it is not like that. We may think our bodies are clean, But from this perspective, they are even less useful than those of animals. For animals, after death, their bodies can be taken as food. Once a human body is taken to the charnel ground, no matter how good the body used to be, regardless of whether it belonged to a king, a queen, a leader, a bureau chief, or a section chief, people who once revered it in life now cannot even bear to look at it in the charnel ground, let alone enjoy or make use of it. Some people are extremely attached to their family members. When a family member dies, at first they may cling to the corpse, but after a few days they are eager to dispose of it. They may cry at first, but no one would want to keep the body on their own bed all the time. The stench becomes unbearable, but this is the true nature of the body. So it is pointless to be attached to this body. In the extensive biography of Buddha Shakyamuni, there is a story about a woman who was attached to her husband's body. Even after he became just a skeleton, she still carried it around. Later, a manifestation of the Buddha saved her. That story is quite remarkable. Whether we look at others' bodies or our own, we find it repulsive. When people are alive, their bodies are not much better. As Milarepa also says, the corpse that inspires fear is none other than this present body. The corpse we fear is the same body we have now. The difference is that when we are alive, there is a bit of breath. And when we die, the body cannot move, it just falls over. Otherwise, they are the same. There was once a prince in India who had meditated on the impurity of human body in his past life. One night, among thousands of royal consorts, he looked around and saw it was just like a charnel ground. Terrified, he fled and became a monk in a solitary place. For those who have practiced the meditation on white bones or the meditation on impurity, both male and female bodies appear terrifying. This is true for both the living and the dead. The meaning here is that since our bodies cannot be eaten, drunk, or sucked, what is the point of being attached to it? If they cannot be eaten, can they be used as ornaments or for other purposes? For example, can we use the human body to make a stool or something for daily use? Or can we string human bones into a mala and wear it around the neck as an ornament? It seems no one really does that. So we should know that the body we are so attached to is of no value. But when we express these views in society, people may think we are out of our minds. They say, life is wonderful, the body is so great, it is as beautiful as the girls of Alishan. There's a lyric saying that the girls of Alishan are as beautiful as water, right? Beautiful as water, but not as clean as water. People use all kinds of words in the world to praise the body, but this is because they are in a state of confusion, so it is understandable. But by studying the Dharma, we should awaken from this confusion and recognize the truth concerning the nature of all phenomena. So, what is the only use of being attached to this body? It is to provide food for the foxes, vultures, and wild dogs in the charnel ground. Why? Because we spend our lives caring for this body, eating meat, crabs, and other gourmet foods, which makes our bodies fatter. In this way, we are preparing better food for the animals in the charnel ground, just as people fatten chickens and pigs for people to have better food. So every day we eat and drink for the purpose of preparing a better meal for the vultures in the charnel ground. I've heard that some individual fake Rinpoches even eat animal feed to increase their weight, so they may look dignified to others. On one hand, they make the vultures in the charnel ground very happy in the future. On the other, some mindless people are like vultures who may generate faith just by looking at their appearances. So when they are alive, those fake Rinpoches are able to make those devotees who do not seek the Dharma, but only focus on appearances to be satisfied and happy. When they pass away, the wild dogs and vultures in the charnel ground are delighted to see such a plump body. That is the only purpose. So now we should learn to be content and have few desires and follow the example of the great masters of the past. We should give rise to bodhicitta from within and never let this noble intention fade. Our body is like a temporary guest house. After staying one night, we check out the next day and head to somewhere else. It's the same principle. Right now, we are using this body like a guest living in a hotel. As it says in the 37 practices of a bodhisattva, it is just a temporary guest house. After staying here for a few decades, we will leave this body and move on to another place. One could say that is the beginning of another journey of life. This is how we wander in samsara, and we should understand the whole journey this way. If we do not understand this endless journey and think that this one life is all we have, then all our actions will be for the sake of this life alone, which are truly very foolish. So, as Buddhists, we are truly fortunate to know these truths. So we must contemplate and practice them in a genuine way. This is the first point. The second point is that we should use this body to practice virtue. We must never use our body for creating negative karma. Instead, we should use our bodies to engage in virtuous actions. The next verse will explain this point. The bodies of all human beings are merely something to be used. Even though you protect it so, when the merciless Lord of Death takes it to give to birds and dogs, will there be anything you can do? This verse tells us that we should make use of this body to practice virtue. Only by practicing virtue do our lives have real meaning. Although the body is a festering machine of filth composed of 36 impure substances, by relying on it, we can still gain some benefit. As it is taught in the 400 verses, when it comes to practicing virtue, relying on the body does have certain benefits. So right now, by relying on this body, we can maintain pure discipline, practice virtue, engage in generosity and the 6 paramitas, and give rise to bodhicitta. Even though the body itself is impure, it becomes the means by which our mind can attain lasting liberation and happiness. In the words of my perfect teacher and other teachings, it is said that this body, when used for virtue, become a boat which takes us toward liberation. We must understand this and never think, oh, I'm sick, so be it. Didn't the teacher say this body is impure? I won't take medicine, I won't drink. If I die, so be it. There's no need to care about my ugly body anymore. From now on, I won't wash my face or do anything to care for it. There is no need to go to such extremes. Even though we fully understand the true nature of the body, we still need to rely on this body to perform many virtuous actions. With this body, we can benefit sentient beings. This is absolutely the most meaningful thing in our lives. It is said in the Sakya Pandita's Treasury of Good Advice, those who never think of benefiting others are no different from animals. So, if we never think of others, but spend all our time caring for ourselves, then such a life is not much different from that of a yak. As human beings living in this world, we should strive to do something beneficial for sentient beings as well as for ourselves, laying a foundation for liberation in this and all future lives. Even if we can plant just a tiny seed of virtue in the mind stream of one sentient being, our lives are of great value. If we spend all our money solely on our own food, drink, and appearance, that is a foolish use of our resources. Instead, we should use our resources to save the lives of sentient beings, or to help the poor, the needy, the sick, and so on. In this way, money truly fulfills its value. For example, when I was able to help a poor student, I felt an indescribable feeling. This money was spent meaningfully. Without this money, that student might have remained illiterate for life, but with just this money, they can gain knowledge. And with that knowledge, he may go on to practice virtue and even attain ultimate liberation. We should have this kind of thought. So we must rely on this body to practice virtue. The Buddha said in the Vinaya Pitaka, for those who practice virtue, the longer their lives, the better. That is, for those who practice virtue, it is best if they live to be 100 years old or even longer. But for those who engage in negative or harmful deeds, living a long life in this world does hold much meaning, as they bring no benefit to themselves or others. Many teachings on practice say the same thing. Now, each of us, especially young people, should make a strong aspiration. Some people say, I am suffering so much right now. Can I leave this world as soon as possible? There are many people, especially some women, who think about dying early and being reborn in the Pure Land. But this kind of attitude is not very good. It is truly not easy to obtain a precious human body. If we have the opportunity, we should recite longevity prayers for ourselves and make aspirations for ourselves to live long. I am not joking about this. It is truly very difficult to obtain this human body, and we have the opportunity to practice the Mahayana Dharma and engage in virtue. If we truly believe in the whole process process of samsara, we will know how difficult it is to obtain such a human body in countless eons, and it is even rarer that we are able to generate bodhicitta, or a virtuous mind, and to believe in karma and its effects. This is something extremely rare to find among so many people. So don't always look down on yourselves thinking, what's so great about my body? Don't think of suicide, which is a bad idea. We should make strong aspirations to practice virtue. Everyone should make such aspirations, even if life may seem very painful or meaningless at the time being. After some time, maybe a few years, it will be very beneficial for both ourselves and others. So having a low mood is temporary. No one is in a bad mood for their entire lives. Many people say, at some time in my life, I was in a terrible mood and I almost gave up living. Many practitioners have said this, including some well-known Dharma teachers. They say, when I first had this heart disease, I even thought that maybe it would be better to just die from it, but I never imagined that my work would be so vast. There are situations like this. Our body is one of the causes of our practice. It is best for everyone not to look down on their own body. We must make many aspirations to make good use of our bodies. I remember a teaching from His Holiness Penor Rinpoche, who is now in his 70s or 80s living in India. He often said, "It is not easy to obtain a human body. You must make aspirations to live long." He also said to His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, "You should make aspirations to live long." I myself often make aspirations to live longer in this world. Not only me, but also every monastic and every practitioner should make this aspiration. In fact, the power of the mind is very strong. If we often think this way, we will probably live longer. But we should not say, oh, I haven't died today, I still have to live. How painful. I don't want to fetch water. Why am I still alive? There is no need, because our lives are quite good right now. If we were hell beings or hungry ghosts, it would be better to die early. But as humans, no matter how difficult life may seem, there is nothing we cannot endure. Therefore, I encourage you to pray for yourselves to live long in this world. The verse says, even though you protect it so, when the merciless Lord of Death takes it. Although we care for our bodies with the utmost attention, when the time comes, death will show no mercy. Just as it is said in the application of mindfulness of the sacred Dharma, the Lord of Death is absolutely unavoidable. He will take away our lives. So, no matter how much we cherish and protect our bodies, death will ruthlessly take our lives and offer our bodies to vultures and wild dogs. At that time, what can we do? Patrul Rinpoche said this, from the moment we were born in this world, we are destined to die, yet the manner, cause, and timing of our death remain uncertain. Everyone here now in the Dharma Hall will definitely die within 100 years. But for each person, will it be from a car accident, from illness, or in some other way? Except for those with clairvoyance, no one knows. So it is a mistake to think, I probably won't die now. I'll practice in a while, maybe next year. Once I was on the road in the county and gave a ride to two people. They said, we really can't make it this time. We have to go back because we have to work. But in 3 or 4 years, we'll come here to take refuge. At that time, we'll study the Dharma. Hearing this, I felt a deep sadness. This is how worldly people are. It is so rare for people to make the long journey to the academy. It would be good to take refuge or at least learn about the Dharma, but they put it off for 2 or 3 years, and it's hard to say whether they will still have this intention or whether they would still be alive by then. The biggest difference between practitioners and non-practitioners lies in their understanding of impermanence. I often feel that those who have not studied the Dharma or have not studied it deeply, have many dreams and wishes for the future. But whether these can come true is uncertain. It is very difficult to realize all of them. But more advanced practitioners may think, I might die, I might not live to see that day. Even when making plans for the next year, they are aware of life's uncertainty. As practitioners, we must always reflect on our death. This is because death may catch us completely unprepared. Just a few days ago, a Dharma friend here who seemed quite healthy suddenly fell ill and passed away after surgery. He went to the hospital, but it was too late. In just a few days, his fate completely changed. This could happen to any of us. Our lives are so fragile. If we cling to the belief that we will not die soon, this strong attachment will keep us bound and become an obstacle to our practice. Therefore, we should always think this way. Even if I live just one more day, I should recite mantras, read Dharma books, and plant a good seed of virtue in my mind. If we always think this way, regardless of whether death comes suddenly or not, we can recall virtuous teachings at the crucial moment. But in any case, as some great masters have said, like a beautiful woman's hair catches fire, she immediately puts it out. Or like a coward finds a poisonous snake in his arms, he immediately throws it away. We should not keep putting off our practice, thinking, I'll practice next year or the year after. I can't do it now, I'm too busy with work and family. Once my child finishes college, I'll ordain. How can you be sure you'll still be alive then? Even if after college there's still much to do, your child will start a family, live his life, and eventually leave this world. If only by then will you think about ordaining or studying the Dharma, it will be too late. We can say many people's thoughts and plans run counter to the true principles of practice. In practice, if you want to take refuge, do it right away. If you want to do something virtuous, do it right away. Try not to keep putting it off. Otherwise, who knows if you'll ever have the chance. The Lord of Death, Yama, is always watching us. If we always live our lives in a kind of daze, if we always have unrealistic hopes for the future, acting like fishermen casting nets on dry land, we may end up with deep regrets. W should practice virtue now. Among all virtuous deeds, choose those truly meritorious, such as cultivating bodhicitta and renunciation. Plant truly beneficial roots of virtue in our minds. Even if you only make a little progress each day, it will definitely benefit you and others, no matter how long you live. As practitioners, we should always pray to the Guru and the Three Jewels. When the blessings of the Guru and the Three Jewels enter your heart, your practice will be truly successful. Without this, mere words or outward actions are of little value. Only give rise to a sincere intention to practice from your heart will you become a truly good practitioner. All right, we'll stop here for today.
Bandara Bandara